I'd like to call to order the February 20th, 2025 meeting of Mayor and Council. Call on Councilman Tim Carroll to lead us in prayer. If you'll please remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you again tonight. Thank you for all the blessings you continue to bestow upon us. We do ask, and we know you and you alone have the power to make these things happen. But our community still hurts, sir. And it needs help, and our citizens need your help, and need your blessing and your healing hand. So we ask all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on to item 2, I recognize the fact that there are some Leadership Lounge current class members in our audience. Would you please stand and be recognized? It's a requirement during the course of their class year to take in a city council meeting and a boring county commission meeting. Always exciting over here. All right. For awards and presentations, a very special award that we look forward to every year, now in its 9th year, for the Valdosta State University social media class. And, Dr. Nelson would join me up front. We'll get to honor. All right. All of us. This is the city is honored for the 9th year and honored to partner with USU and our public information office to make our city better, present our city in a better light. They had the ultimate challenge. They had Frederick Bedford in the 21st century on social media. As well as part of our inspections department, they took on that project. You want to praise it further?
Yeah, I want to praise it. It wasn't hard. It was very, very open and good experience. I don't even explain about the experience, and I appreciate the ability for students to get this real world experience in the class, make this a unique experience to be able to get a real world experience, but also participate in community, which I think is super important as well. And I appreciate working with SHAR and the whole public information office as well as the city and all the departments who did that. Say 9 years. Oh, I forgot all of this. Yes.
You have to be still.
I'm doing names.
So we have some certificates we want to give out. And then as a special thank you,
Councilman Howard was asking if we could get out of here before the temperature hits the upper 30s tonight. So I skipped the script and went from the heart. That is an awesome effort. It really is. Item 3, we had a special called meeting January 28th. Council's had time to review the minutes for that meeting. Are there any additions or deletions to that special called meeting? Seeing none, the minutes are approved by acclamation. Will also be minutes from the February 6th meeting forthcoming. Item 4, ordinances and resolutions. Consideration of a resolution of support for not opting out of House Bill 581 for a floating homestead exemption. Chuck Dinkins will present the benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution expressing the city's intention not to opt out of House Bill 581. The House bill puts cities in by default, so it provides measures to opt out, but no specific action to stay in. So this resolution expresses the city's support for its intention to remain in. The city has chosen to remain in, I think, in large part because A, it's the will of the voters, and B, because it does provide access to an additional 1 cent sales tax if elected by the citizens of Lowndes County. If you opt out, then that option would be off the table. What House Bill 581 does is provide a floating homestead exemption for each homesteaded piece of property to limit the rate of taxable value increase each year to the inflation rate determined by the State Revenue Commissioner. This resolution expresses the city's support to remain in that category. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Council, any questions for Chuck?
Yeah, just a few, just to kind of clear up some things. Questions that I already know the answers to, but questions that have been asked to me.
Yes.
This does not replace the $6,500 homestead exemption.
No, that is a fixed exemption.
Right.
This would put in a floating exemption.
Right.
So as the values in Lowndes County or Valdosta go up, the real value, the market value of the house will continue to rise with it. It would not cap that, but the exemption that's currently in place would increase along with that so that the net difference would be capped.
Okay. And this is based upon the inflation rate, correct?
Yes, it's determined by the State Revenue Commissioner, right, but she would base it on the inflation rate.
Inflation rate.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe it's a question too that was asked, or some person was telling the way they understood it. With this property for homeowners, for your property tax, it's like with this type, if we opt in, the tax on the houses will kind of like gradually increase as they have been doing in the past. But if we opt out, that I guess we could say that the homeowners would have to pay up, like go up really high. Some say even double the amount.
Well, it would depend on how they got their individual house value. But yes, if there would be no limit to what the value could do, it'd have to be within the market, obviously. But as the market went up, theirs would go up. And as the value went up, their taxes would go up proportionally.
And that would be determined by the tax assessors?
Yes, ma'am. So each house needs to be revalued periodically. It doesn't necessarily happen annually, but periodically.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions?
So basically, I mean, everybody's in as far as already in. The option is just simply to get out.
The default is to be in. You have to take action to be out.
Yeah. So that being said, at what point does this action take place? And then when do we put it up as a referendum for it to be voted on by the citizens?
I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, but there's no referendum to stay in.
No, what I mean is we have to put it on the ballot, correct?
He's
No.
talking about the floss.
The floss.
Yeah.
Oh, the floss.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That would
This
take
is, we're talking
place.
about this. Yeah.
Right. Everything has to be completed by
They-
March 1st currently in order to opt out.
Well, they just
The-
passed a bill that extended that deadline.
Right. Well, there was a bill, House bill, I forget the number, but it extends it to the end of March.
Okay.
And then it's got, if I remember correctly, 3 annual windows
Okay.
there. So each window would be determined. So if you wanted out, you'd have to opt out for this year by, by March 31st. And the next year by March 31st as well. The floss would have to go on the ballot and be passed after the opt-out window.
So do we have to do it on this ballot, or can we choose
can
to
do it on a future
next year's
ballot.
ballot?
You can do it on a future ballot.
Okay.
Question. The surrounding cities such as Howard, Dasher, and et cetera, are they considering what you proposing, asking us to do?
To my knowledge, they are not putting a referendum of support out. I'm not sure exactly what the surrounding cities intend to do,
Richard,
but I don't know that
Richard
they
can
have.
answer that.
Yes, I spoke with all of the city managers for all of the cities within Lowndes County. All of the cities with the exception of Lake Park. Lake Park has, they've presented to their council, they're doing 3 public hearings as required. So they still can opt in, stay in, but they have the option of opting out. But they just want to do that public hearing. They gave them the option of whether they're going to stay in or stay out. But Lake Park is the only city that's doing those 3 public hearings.
One more question, and I'm through. Just to clear something up, if everybody opts in, we don't have to have a referendum.
Yes.
We would have to have one anyway.
For the sales tax, yes, ma'am.
If everybody stay as they are and opt in.
Everybody has to stay in order to be eligible for the referendum.
Okay.
If
You know,
you
Now,
opt out,
even
you
if the
can't-
county opts out, that does not affect us.
well, it would.
It does. Can you explain that?
They opt out.
Does it will or will not?
No, we're already in. Everybody's already in. We're already in the pot.
It would not
The only
affect,
person that's getting out would be the county if they decide to, which doesn't affect us.
it would not affect our floating option homestead,
Correct.
but it
That's
would
what I'm saying.
affect our floss, our ability to levy a floss.
But we still can levy.
Yes, we still can move forward through the General Assembly to make a proposal for the floss, whether we.
No, we don't have to.
So in 581, the citizens voted 63% of the citizens voted to approve 581. 581 in that gave us an option to go after a floss, that extra penny, gave us the option to put it before the referendum. So they said yes to both in that vote. We can pursue the floss. We just have to kind of ask for permission now instead of just going after and putting it out there in a March referendum. And Chuck, if you'll tell everybody and for the record, a rough estimate of what we would roll property tax back to if that floss passed.
That's what I was getting at.
It's big. It's huge.
We could roll it back approximately 4 mils. I mean, just nice round numbers.
So the 6 and change that we're currently at down to 2 and change. That's big. And
So what you're saying is that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think we can go even lower, sorry.
according to last SPLOST collections, we could, yeah. They've been healthy.
Well, and that's the thing. Sales tax collections are growing. So, the numbers I'm giving you there would be based on our prior year. So
Yep.
you can
And
assume
the-
103% of that per year going up.
And the clearest I can make it is if I assess your property, you pay 100%. If you choose the penny, you pay about 43% of that penny. And everybody that gasses up here and visits here and pulls off that interstate pays way more than your fair share toward the greater good. So they're helping you roll back your property tax.
That's right. Lowndes County has one of the strongest retail pull factors,
Yep.
as they call it, outside of Atlanta.
Yep. We're a hub city, and that interstate is gold. So just wanted to point those things out.
We're not asking, because the citizen are asking, we just rolled back, and that's how I was wanting you to explain it, so them to hear you explaining it, because they confused with us just rolling back, and now we're getting ready to vote whether opt in or opt out. That's what the citizens are so confused about.
Yes, ma'am. The rollback is an annual process that we go through. It takes the prior year digest, basically, and says, all right, discounting the inflationary growth, what can you levy on the new digest? And then you back into a new millage rate based on the new numbers. The current reduction that we're talking about would be, we would then take the money raised by that sales tax and figure that as a millage equivalent. So how many mills would it take to raise this amount of revenue that we're expecting to collect in sales tax, and the millage rate would be reduced by that number.
Another question I was asked is that, the state of Georgia, we voted on this, and then the state can change it when they get ready. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. It's a state law, so they can amend it as well, and they have once already with the moving it from the 1st to the 31st and putting the annual window for the next couple of years.
Tim?
Well, just to follow up on that, the voters voted on a constitutional amendment. I'm not a constitutional scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that the state legislature may not be able to do all things they think they can do, because this was a constitutional amendment.
Well, there was
by the voters, and if it's a constitution in the state of Georgia, then you can't just willy-nilly play with this thing.
they can't completely undo the constitutional amendment, but the amendment in question enabled 581, and the language in the bill calls as, to the extent, or in the event that the constitutional amendment passes, here are the procedures we will use to implement it. So they could change the procedures around it, but not necessarily the kernel of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine.
I understand what Council Carroll was saying. I just wanted you to let the citizens hear what
Yes,
you were
ma'am.
saying. But they are the one that voted for me, and I want them to get to hear what you are saying, so that when you do get out in the public, they will have heard from you responding to my question that I asked. That was all I asked.
Yes, ma'am.
If
Please, Andy.
if all this goes through and we put it on to the citizens to vote and it does not pass, what's our options, or what we're going to do?
If the floss does not pass?
Yeah.
If floss does not pass, then the millage rate would remain like it was.
Everything just stays the same.
Everything stays the same, except you're going to have a little bit of reshifting of the property tax burden because the homesteaded properties are going to be capped here, which means that burden that they're not going to be picking up now would have to be spread over the rest of the digest.
Council, any other questions? Chuck, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council, it's yours for a resolution of support.
Mayor, make a motion to approve this resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. Council, thank you. Chuck, thank you.
Sir.
Item 5, consideration of a request to provide a letter of support to the Georgia Department of Transportation for the Lamar Street Bridge Replacement Project. Ben O'Dowd, are you here? Our awesome city engineer will present.
Lots of adjectives. Appreciate it. This was pretty straightforward. As y'all are well aware, the Lamar Street Bridge is now and has been for some time in significant disrepair. It is a very old bridge, and it is a wooden bridge. It's had some structural abnormalities and issues over the years. We've done temporary kind of patch fixes on this thing. And then I believe 5 years ago, Pat reached out to the state and inquired about Lamar Street Bridge being placed on the GDOT Bridge program. It was accepted as a candidate for replacement and began programming. That programming has now come to a head. The state has requested a letter of support from the city of Valdosta to share the cost. This is a standard convention. Based on the level of complexity of the project, I go into detail on the second sheet of the agenda item. This particular bridge is considered tier 3 complexity. And whenever you have a bridge that's tier 3 complexity, you have a fixed $100,000 contribution cost. So across the state of Georgia, anybody who wants to get a tier 3 bridge replaced by the state pays $100,000 of local funds toward the cost of the project. This is I say this a lot, but this is a no-brainer. For us to replace this bridge ourselves would certainly cost more than $100,000, and our staff estimates it would probably be on the order of magnitude of $600,000 to $750,000. So this is a pretty substantial savings. There's no funding necessary to be paid at this time. This is just a letter of support, basically a promissory note saying, hey, we will pay this in the future. This bridge is programmed for design sometime in the future. I believe design is scheduled for FY25, which means it's underway currently. Right-of-way acquisition is scheduled for FY27. And construction is scheduled for FY29. So presumably if GDOT carries their standard convention for contributions on a local level, we would be required to make this $100,000 contribution in fiscal year 29 prior to the commencement of construction. Any questions on this?
Council. Ben, thank you. Council, it's yours for action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this request as stated by engineer.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. Council, thank you. Ben, thank you. Move on to item B, consideration of a request for payment for the emergency repair and replacement of 6-inch bypass valve along that Mud Creek water pollution plant. Jason, how you doing?
Good. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Approximately on Wednesday, January the 29th, approximately about 8:30 that morning, we found all 3 effluent pumps at the Mud Creek wastewater facility. At the time, normal operations called for 1 pump to run and 2 to be on standby. Upon inspection, we found that 2 of the pumps were not working. Only 1 pump was working at the time. We tried to reverse the flow on the pumps, but basically you just blow it out, trying to get rid of whatever was underneath the pumps, cause them not to, if they was clogged or airlocked. That did not work. So at that time, we made the recommendation to call James Warren Associates to come in and put a bypass in. We had a 6-inch valve that was there since 2010. It was undersized, inadequate, especially when the amount of flow that we have. 6-inch wouldn't have done anything. So they were part of this proposal. They replaced the 6-inch to a 12-inch valve so we could have the 2 12-inch pumps to be able to set up the bypass. If we wouldn't have done this, we could have went on with 1 pump. 2 of them wasn't working. I did not want to take a chance if that one would have stopped in the middle of the night. And the influent, you got to think, is where it comes in at. You got headworks all up the hill. So if that influent pump 1 would have stopped, then we'd have had a spill. And it would have filled up the influent wet well, ran out the back down the creek into Knights Creek. So I wanted to call James Warren to have this in place just in case that 1 pump stopped. Later that next week, we were able to set up the bypass that night. So it's about 10 or 11 o'clock. Once we got the bypass set up, the 1 pump stayed running until the following week. We kept an eye on it, but if it did, we had that one in place, ready to go. The following week, we were able to get both of those pumps. So right now, all 3 pumps are working. So part of that was, like I said, a 12-inch valve, and then the bypass pumping set up itself. So the staff recommends approving the payment in the amount of $54,580.86 to James Warren Associates. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? Jason, thank you. Stay close. Council, yours for action.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the request as stated.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. Thank you. Jason, item C, consideration of a request for replacement of equipment for the Gornto and Reamer master lift stations.
Yes, sir. So Mayor, this is something we've been excited, to get this changed out. So built in 2016, the both master lift stations known as Garnto and Reamer were installed with voltage reduced soft starts over contactors powering our 385 horsepower pumps, providing the influent flow to Withlacoochee wastewater treatment plant. Due to the design of the station currently, our 385 horsepower flight pumps start and stop around 4 to 6 times an hour, depending on our flow. The act of these pumps stopping could potentially cause a water hammer and damage to the 18-inch line, damage to the force main. So these variable frequency drives would increase the runtime of the pumps by slowing them down and allowing us to adjust the speed of these pumps with the incoming flow. So that would move our stop times from 4 to 6 times an hour to once a week during normal flow. So it's basically like a car in a manual transmission compared to a car in an automatic transmission. So you got a manual go, up and down, and then automatic, we can actually slow these pumps down. These pumps are 100% pumping, so we can slow them down to 80. So these VFDs will actually help both of these stations. So the Rockwell Automation is the sole source bid. They are proposing to remove 4 of the existing 8. We have 4 of our flight soft starts at each station. We're going to place 2 at Garnto, replace 2 at Reamer. I've already put in the budget upon approval FY26 to replace the other 4. So these are PowerFlex 755 drives that will be in their place, all the supporting systems. I talked to the guy today. It's 6 to 8 weeks for delivery and 1 week to install. So we'll be able to finish this hopefully around May. Both of these stations will have 2 of these PowerFlex 755 drives. Staff recommends approving the proposal submitted by Rockwell Automation in the amount of $239,475. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
It's not a question, sir. I would like you to go back and tell them about the warranty, 18 months, because everybody wants to make sure you get everything.
So the warranty is it's like a year or 2 on the actual drives, and we got a 30-day warranty on the label.
And then you got 18 months for delivery and 12 months. That was a warranty also?
6 to 8 weeks for delivery of the drives. And then once they get here, it'll be a 1 week for installation.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one question, Jason. This is that one over by the YMCA off of Garnto?
Correct. Garnto and then Reamer right there at Reamer Lane, right there at Reamer, that's the other station. Both of our master stations.
Biggest.
And this is also will be able to help our, our grit chamber and our headworks at Withlacoochee, because you got to figure this flow is 100%, going all the time. With us slowing it down, they won't get as much rags and grit and stuff at the headworks, which will cause the headworks to work better operationally. So just wanted to throw that out there.
What's the end result of the erosion that was around the Gornto station? Is it all packed and fixed? And
Sir?
the erosion that happened during the floods
The
around?
force main, that one has been repaired.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Jason on this one? Jason, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Council, again, yours for action.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. Council, thank you. Jason, again, thank you. Item D, a consideration of a request for the deletion of Chapter 328, landscape buffers and screening of the land development regulations for the city of Valdosta. We've looked at this a couple of times before, but no doubt our engineer will present.
You didn't read the entire agenda item title, sir. You didn't read the entire agenda. I'm just kidding. All right, so this one is, we visited this a number of different times, so I'm just kind of following back up with this. You all said you wanted to see it again at the second meeting in February, so here we are. I wanted to note that we did receive a red line markup from Councilman Gibbs. I wanted to kind of respond to each one of the statements or questions that you had, so I put the comment response letter in there. I wanted to point specifically to the recommendation to modify the proximity of plantings to overhead utilities. think that's a good idea. I don't have the time. I didn't have the time prior to this meeting to really develop that, because what I want to do is I want to take the approved planning list. I want to incorporate the mature height of those growth plantings and then reference that mature height value in the actual code section within LDR 328 and basically say, hey, look, reference how tall the thing gets when it's fully mature, and then don't plant that tree within that amount of feet from overhead utilities. That's going to take time for the city arborist and I to kind of develop that and make sure that we've got those values dialed in. We also received verbal comment from Councilman Howard regarding some interest in modification of the chapter. I also included a info packet in here about what tree topping is. There was some concern over the section about tree topping, and I kind of wanted to explain what it was and why we encourage structural pruning instead, just for the health of the tree. If we're going to have a tree, we may as well have it healthy. Really, what I'm asking for from council is additional time. I know that we've been about this. I promise you I'm not sidestepping this or trying to not give it the attention that it deserves. I know that there's some interest in seeing this thing modified to maybe align with council's vision for the city a little bit better. I would like to have more conversations with y'all, more pointed conversations with specific input. I really appreciate the specific input that you gave us, Councilman Gibbs. I also would like there to be some dialogue with staff, because we deal readily with the permitting environment. I personally came from, as a design professional that worked in the private sector, I came from the private sector, so I'm familiar with encumbrances to development, and I think I've got some good ideas about ways that we can modify this to make it more development friendly. And so I guess the question is, or the ask from staff is, can we have more time to maybe have some structured work sessions to discuss this? So like maybe have the work session in March and the work session in April. I'm not trying to elongate this thing unnecessarily, but I'd like to have a work session where I can kind of, okay, you know, we first pass is going to be, okay, we took a look at the mature height of these plantings. This is the structure that we feel like the chapter makes sense with. Try and get some good presentation for y'all during the work session for information only. And then if we feel like we need to utilize a second work session to kind of go over if there's any follow-up questions, I want to have space and time to have those conversations with y'all during the work session where it's informal, where it's not like this, you know, hey, let's make this decision right now kind of thing. I don't want to do this again. I want to get this right the first time, and I want to make sure that we don't have to come back to this for a while. I do want to also note that we, with funds from the Georgia Forestry Commission, we're able to commission basically a tree survey to assess the canopy loss due to Hurricanes Idalia and Helene, just to basically quantify in real terms, okay, how much did we actually lose here? And then we also, as part of that, GIC is performing a review of our tree ordinance, and they're hosting a public information meeting on, yesterday. I should have posted this because I was going to be presenting it after it was presented. But they had a public information meeting yesterday, and I wanted to be able to kind of incorporate any input that they had generated as part of that public information meeting, because I think the public needs to be involved in how this thing is shaped. So that's really what I'm asking for, is more time. So I'll leave it to your decision.
Any questions now for Ben?
I just want to make a statement of thank you for responding, you know, as far as to my markups and stuff and everything. Didn't you send out something with a tree canopy thing? What is that? Is it next week? Yeah, 26.
It's next week.
Yeah, the tree canopy. Is that part of it?
I've got my dates jumbled. It's
Okay.
got a sinus infection right now,
So
so
you're fine. Next week at 5:30.
yes,
it is.
next week, next
See how
Wednesday,
it is.
5:30. I believe it's in the
Is that what
NPR.
this is? Is that what this is? Is the folks that come in?
Yes, GIC is doing a public meeting. They've done a review of the tree ordinance. And I believe there's going to be a public information meeting or.
Okay.
And Andy, they're doing 2 sittings, a 9 to 10 and a 5 to 6 or a 5:30 to 6:30.
Yeah,
They're doing,
It's 5:30.
they're doing
It's
two
5:30
to make it
6,
convenient for
5:30 to 7.
everybody.
So I'm not sure how well attended those could be. I hope they are.
This email just came out today.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
They'll feel free to come in and encourage your constituents to be there. Yes, sir.
Right tree, right place. Eric.
In Lowndes County, what we have, pines, oaks, hickory, and pecan. Those are pretty much the largest trees that we have. Correct?
You're asking the wrong person. I know we've got pine, oak, all different types of species of oak, hickory, pecan, black gum. Gum is a water friendly tree, but black gum is a very prominent native planting.
So when Councilman Gibbs and I were talking, those are the trees that we don't want planted close to utility lines and roadways, because those are the trees that tend to get large. They can knock over power lines and obstruct the roadways when we do have storms, so our emergency vehicles can't get by.
Yeah.
We were really concerned with the canopy trees because those aren't large enough to obstruct the roadways and knock down the utility lines. So those were the trees that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just for instance, I believe the mature height of a longleaf pine is going to be somewhere between 80 and 100 feet. The mature height of a live oak tree might be somewhere between 35 and 50. So we want to make sure that when we're doing this, it's well researched and well understood. One of the other things that I've done over the past really year is kind of take a look at, what are the things that we want to do? What are the main encumbrances to development? Like, so since I've been here in my time working in this business environment prior to my time at the city, what were the things that I saw kind of shut a project down before it was able to come to fruition? And so we've landscape is not always the big thing. Landscaping is usually a back-end expense on a new development. But we have looked at, what are some ways that we can modify this to make it more development friendly? What are some ways that we can incentivize the planting of native plantings rather than new or invasive plantings? And then what are the ways that we can incentivize the planting of hurricane resilient species? And those main hurricane resilient species are bald cypress. Live oaks are actually a very hurricane resilient species. Case in point is these beautiful live oaks that we have right out here in front of the Church of Christ that are still standing after Hurricane Idalia and after Hurricane Helene, and have likely seen worse storms than that because they're hundreds of years old. Longleaf pines are also a prominent hurricane resilient species. The issue that I have with pines in commercial settings is the fact that pines have a shared taproot. They have a cohesive rooting system, and when they're isolated, when they're by themselves, they're not as resilient to these strong winds. And a lot of times, what we see either new pines planted in an isolated fashion, or old pines that are isolated where they used to be grouped in a family, and then they're isolated and they're made weaker because of that. So staff is thinking about it. I just wanted to kind of give you all that information to, we do think about these things, and I want to take one big clean pass at LDR 328, not do a bunch of little small modifications. Yes, ma'am.
It might be an afterthought, but just like all the information you was just giving out, I got some questions, but I'm not going to ask all those questions right now for that. But maybe have y'all not thought about something that they're having an ad hoc committee where you had some of the council members, some of the citizens, some of the staff got together, and y'all hash out all that you were just talking about, because that could be explained. Those questions could come up. So,
yes, ma'am.
I mean,
I think that, and in truth, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that the tree commission is intended to serve as that entity, and it is comprised of city staff members. It is comprised of stakeholders from a variety of backgrounds, not just, the tree commission gets a rap for being people that want to see lots of trees everywhere, but we have a good diversity of people on the tree commission that are from a good diversity of backgrounds, that are sensible, reasonable people. And I think that council
members kind of talk with them. That's what I was thinking.
We talked to the chairman.
Yeah. So I think we could, I think this tree commission's motto, the mayor's mentioned it before, is right tree, right place, which is a good sensibility. So
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we had a member of the tree commission with us tonight, Dr. David Wilson.
well, there you go.
And you're not opposed to the future city of Valdosta being underground with its utilities, correct?
I had some very pointed conversations with Georgia Power recently, and their motto, our motto for trees is right tree, right place, and their motto is, of course, we'll put the power underground and we'll send you a bill. It's incredibly expensive to put utilities underground. I love the idea of it. I don't think that we can sustain the cost for it.
So they think they have a pretty creative way of absorbing that cost and new development. Yeah, you draw the line in the sand from moving forward, and then you start.
For Georgia Power, or
Yeah, I think they look at it as what's the cost of not doing it,
yeah,
and having your next storm
And I
and
think
4,500 bucket trucks and personnel in town.
I think for them, they can probably sustain quite a few hurricanes and still be money ahead.
Yeah.
That's how expensive it is. My understanding. I'm not a professional in that.
And Emily Davenport has gotten us 4 cities that have done that, have
Yeah.
gone that route and done that. So
No, we've done that quite a bit with streetscape for beautification, and it's certainly something that is not out of the question.
but you're not opposed.
It's just whether we want to fund it. So,
All right. Any other questions? Yes. Councilman.
So we go ahead and keep this thing going. What kind of timeline are we talking about? So we go ahead.
I want to have 2 work sessions. I want to have a chance to bring this before you all in March, and then I want to have a chance to bring this before you all in April,
If needed.
if needed, for the second work session.
And if you guys just want to table it,
I was gonna say, you want to table.
just table it, and then we'll just pull it off
Okay.
when presented. So, any other questions for Ben?
You guys are okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, Ben, thank you. Council, yours.
Mr. Teresa, when are we tabling?
That's what I was.
We have to make a motion, but we're gonna make a motion to table it to the next work session in March.
No, I think we can do it open-ended.
Well, Teresa said,
You have to put a date, right?
Ben's asking for, you're asking for it to be brought back up for the next work session, right?
Next 2 work sessions, March and April.
I think that if we're going to postpone or table it, it needs to be tabled for action at a certain date, or tabled indefinitely to be brought back in council's discretion.
Mayor,
That, stay with.
Can we postpone it to April or May?
April,
Then you can always pull it back.
second meeting in May, Teresa? What's the date?
April.
April, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Second meeting in April. What's the date specific? Oh.
Tim's saying if we go to April, we can always pull it back.
Hold on, I got it.
Second meeting in April, you're talking about the 24th?
24th?
24th, is that correct?
Yep, pick it, 24th, 5:30.
Mayor, we make a
What's
motion
wrong with
to.
option number 3 so we can get through with this now?
That's what we're doing.
Okay,
Yep.
then. So what I got to just go ahead
For an
on
extension.
and then-
Go ahead.
Without objection, I'd like to make a motion to table this until May the 24th.
April.
24th, excuse me, April 24th.
second,
But it's not an extension, that's a table.
It's
Table.
get motion and second.
All in favor?
I have a motion.
Malcolm can say that.
Yeah, I have a motion and
I'm trying to please do something
It
in
is.
order.
We are.
we'll call this part
A
comments.
motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. Yes. Council, thank you. Ben, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 6, citizens to be heard. This is the portion of the meeting we ask you to come forward and state your name and address so we may have it for the record. Our policy requires you stay under 3 minutes so others have time to be heard. Please direct all comments to council as a whole. Do not attempt to engage individual members of council in debate. It's our policy to follow through with your concern almost immediately. Additionally, we ask any groups designate one spokesperson again in the interest of time. Having said that, are there any citizens wishing to be heard at this time? Please come forward. Very good.
Beautiful ladies, hello, council, mayor, city manager. I just want to bring attention to you. There is no such thing as a hurricane-proof tree.
Name and address.
My name is Steve Freeman. I stay at 612 Second Avenue.
Thank you, Steve.
There's no such thing as a hurricane-proof tree. I'm just putting it out there. And I got a complaint on Second Avenue. The canal is sinking. The pipes is falling down inside of a sinkhole. West Street and I think it's Gordon. The pipes are just falling right down in the hole.
The storage pipes. Where it on Gordon Street?
It's on West and Gordon and Second.
West and Gordon.
We got some pipes that have been sitting there for probably about 2 years.
Yes, we've looked at those, and we're gonna look farther into that where the erosion is taking place.
Okay, because my house is like right in that cul-de-sac with that water, and I'm concerned if something is going on there, I want to be able to run at least, if it's not run. So, but I just want to just bring it to your attention. Valdosta, I moved here about 4 years ago, and I seen that problem coming with the trees here. One thing I can tell you to come up with some kind of solution where you can go out and spend maybe $200,000 or $300,000 to help the citizens cut some of these trees back from their house, because they coming down. The trees are old. They haven't been pruned. You're gonna have this problem for the next. I can't even go that far out, but you're gonna have to come up with a solution because it is a problem. So just keep it in mind. There's no thing as a hurricane-proof tree. I'm from Florida. Just telling you. And the strongest trees in Florida was a ficus tree. It pulled right up out the ground just like pull a twig up. So we're gonna have problems here. So my solutions to you is maybe come up with an idea how you can go out with the citizens and cut some of the trees back from the house and thin some of them out. Other than that, when the storm comes, just start praying.
Beautiful, beautiful suggestion. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Is there any other citizens wishing to be heard at this time? All right. We'll close out that portion of the evening and turn it over to Richard Hardy for the city manager's report.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, speaking of trees, Friday, February the 21st, we're having our Arbor Day celebration and proclamation at City Hall, 10 a.m. The city of Valdosta will recognize Arbor Day with a proclamation highlighting the importance of trees in our community.
Right tree, right place.
Saturday, February the 22nd, we're having a Valdosta tree giveaway. Location. I didn't set this up, please. 200 Pendleton Drive, BSU North Campus. Residents who reserve trees through the Tree Commission can pick them up during this event. Okay, enough of the trees.
Just tell them where to slant it at.
Steve, he's not allowed at the Arbor Day celebration anyway. He doesn't like trees. He doesn't like trees.
Saturday, February the 22nd, Love Where You Live road cleanup. This is very important to make sure that we keep our streets, our community clean. It will take place at 1701 Barack Obama Boulevard. Time 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Volunteers will assist in cleaning up Ricardo Street from Barack Obama to Claudio Circle. Encourage everyone to come out and participate in this event. Also, February 22nd, Saturday, our first inaugural Black History Month parade. Our start time lineup is at 10:30. Starting location, Pineville Elementary School to MLK Park. The city of Valdosta is in partnership with the Southern Georgia Black Chamber. We will host the inaugural event, and a closing ceremony will follow at MLK Park. Tuesday, February the 25th, we've been, the citizen has been having many concerns with their water bill. So what we're doing, we're putting on a town hall meeting. We're putting on 2 sessions, one at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on that Tuesday. And then we also have an evening session from from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. This meeting will provide residents with a clear, detailed presentation explaining their utility bill. A question and answer session with city officials will follow up. This discussion will be moderated by Dwayne Johnston, President and CEO of the Southern Georgia Black Chamber. That's all I have.
Sure you don't have one more?
Don't.
You said the town hall meeting is gonna be at the City Hall Annex.
It's going to be at the Women's Building.
Richard, thank you. We'll move on to council comments. Council, start at the end. Good, Sandra? Good. Andy?
Just want to clear up one thing. The tree canopy open house is only one time slot,
One session.
5:30 to 6:30.
Thank you very much. Tim? Nick? Ms. Cody?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor, without objection, I make a motion to adjourn.
No objection.